Around 2.5 million years ago, in the early Pleistocene of eastern Africa, a group of hairy, upright apes emerged and began using simple stone tools. They were the first species of a new genus that would one day reshape the world. Homo habilis, the earliest true humans, whose name means handyman. For nearly 1 million years, they lived in social groups across the plains and savannas of eastern and southern Africa, facing constant danger in a harsh, short-lived existence. Yet they endured, and eventually, some would branch off toward what would become modern humans. In this documentary, we'll explore how they lived, evolved, and survived where they came from, and how they met their end. If a Homo habilis were brought to the present, dressed in modern clothes, they'd attract curious looks. They were the first clear step toward species like Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and Denisovans. But in their own time, long before the Ice Age, they remained native only to Africa's wild landscapes. Adult Homo habilis stood about 5 feet tall, shorter than the modern average, and were likely covered in thick hair, resembling their Australopithecus ancestors more than modern humans. They shared many facial traits with these earlier apes, and their long arms remained well-suited for climbing, allowing quick escapes into trees when predators threatened. While they ventured into the open grasslands for food and resources, danger was constant, making caution essential. They spent most of their time walking upright and could run for longer than previous apes, thanks to their longer legs, which also helped them travel considerable distances across the African savannas. Still, their faces revealed their primitive roots: smaller brain capacity than modern humans, a narrow forehead, high-set eyes, a flatter nose with large forward-facing nostrils, and a protruding mouth. These traits mark them as a distinct step forward from earlier apes, though their journey to this stage was anything but easy, as life for their ancestors had been even more challenging. As mentioned earlier, Homo habilis, the first species in the Homo genus, evolved from a group of upright walking apes known as Australopithecus, or Southern ape in English. These ancestors had even more pronounced ape-like traits than Homo habilis, including heavier hair, a more protruding mouth, a smaller brain case, and strong adaptations for tree dwelling. Australopithecus was the first ape to walk upright for long periods, but over time, it shifted toward a fully ground-based lifestyle. Likely candidates for Homo habilis' direct ancestor include the well-known Australopithecus afarensis and the lesser-known Australopithecus sediba, which began dying out just under 3 million years ago. One branch from these species eventually gave rise to Homo habilis, though pinpointing exactly when the transition happened remains difficult. Before Homo habilis was discovered in 1964 by Louis Leakey, Philip Tobias, and John Napier, scientists believe Homo erectus was the direct successor to Australopithecus, a leap that left a missing evolutionary link. The discovery of Homo habilis helped fill that gap, but why Australopithecus evolved into this new form is still debated, with possible causes including changing food sources or environmental shifts that reduced the trees these apes depended on. As tree cover became sparse, some Australopithecus species adapted to life on the ground, relying more on upright walking and feeding on a wider range of foods. Many early upright apes had omnivorous diets, eating both plants and meat, which may have been easier to find on the ground. Although Homo habilis was officially named a new species in 1964, the first evidence came earlier from Tanzania's Olduvai Gorge, when Mary and Louis Leakey unearthed 2 fossilized teeth from an adult ape strikingly similar to modern humans. Over time, Olduvai Gorge yielded more finds, including a partial skeleton of a young male the following year, and later many other fossils. These remains, ranging from teeth and skulls to jaws, leg bones, foot bones, and partial skeletons, have given scientists a clear picture of Homo habilis anatomy and lifestyle. Hand bones reveal they could make a precise grip, likely due to brain developments that allowed the creation of basic stone tools. Differences in arm and leg lengths show they were capable walkers, but still retained features for climbing. Homo habilis still spent time in the safety of trees, and their jaw and skull shape showed they were more closely related to Australopithecines than once thought. Their teeth were similar to ours, except for the incisors, which remained long and sharp like those of chimpanzees or gorillas. Their brain case held around 600 cubic centimeters of brain, about 1.7% of body weight, causing the skull to bulge and round compared to their ancestors. This marked them as more advanced than Australopithecines, but too primitive to be classed with later human species. Some scientists even questioned their classification, suggesting they were the same as Homo rudolfensis, a species that shared the Tanzanian plains. In terms of lifestyle, Homo habilis is believed to have been among the first in the Homo genus to use early stone tools. While Australopithecines had used simple implements to break open food, Homo habilis advanced toolmaking into a new level that laid the groundwork for future technology, most notably through their association with the Oldowan stone tool industry. The Oldowan tool industry was a prehistoric set of simple, sharp-edged tools used for skinning and butchering animals or breaking into tough carcasses. These tools were typically rounded on one end and sharpened on the other, showing no signs of complex design. Homo habilis made them by striking one stone against another to chip off flakes and create a sharp edge. Named after Tanzania's Olduvai Gorge, where many were found alongside Homo habilis fossils. The industry was first identified by British paleoanthropologist Mary Leakey. Some tools from the site show clear evidence that their makers understood what they were doing, marking a major leap in intelligence compared to the crude stone implements of earlier Australopithecines. The flaking patterns reveal precise strikes aimed at creating sharp points, requiring notable skill and cognitive ability. At the time, Homo habilis were the most intelligent animals to have lived, signaling the dawn of a new stage in evolution. However, their creations remained basic, with no evidence of more advanced designs beyond simple protobifaces, primitive knives that would later develop alongside human evolution. Rather than being hunters, Homo habilis were likely scavengers. Their body structure and teeth suggest they supplemented a mostly plant-based diet with meat, but they lacked the tools and strength to bring down large prey like antelope. While they could probably catch small animals or steal eggs using their strong, opposable thumbed hands, most of their meat likely came from carcasses left behind by predators. Equipped only with simple stone cutters, they would have followed and waited for big cats or other carnivores to finish feeding before moving in, much like vultures. The very existence of these tools shows they had some understanding of basic mechanics. It's a striking image, big cats retreating from a kill, while a small group of cautious Homo habilis moves in, stone tools in hand, communicating with primitive vocal sounds that would one day evolve into language. Interestingly, in 1962, 2 years before Homo habilis was officially identified, archaeologists found a mysterious circle of volcanic stones at Olduvai Gorge, over 4 meters long and 3 meters wide, each stone firmly planted about 30 centimeters high and spaced just over half a meter apart. This was clearly man-made, with no known animal at the time capable of creating it. Mary Leakey theorized that the evenly spaced volcanic stones found at Olduvai Gorge may have been used by early hominids to support poles for a primitive shelter or windbreak, offering protection from Tanzania's heavy rains or intense sun. These stones, the oldest known form of human-made architecture, were simple but laid the groundwork for the monumental buildings of today. While it's still unclear which species built the structure, its age and location often link it to Homo habilis. Another possible aspect of Homo habilis life was monogamy. They may have been the first human species to practice it, a trait later seen in Homo ergaster and Homo erectus. Their social groups, possibly resembling baboon troops, could include up to 80 members, with males working together to defend against rivals or predators. Defense might involve raising arms, throwing sticks or stones, and loud screeching to intimidate threats. If that failed, they retreated to the trees, using their long arms to reach safety. Life on the open savannas was dangerous, with potential threats hiding behind any tree, rock, or patch of grass. In the early Pleistocene, the African savannas looked much like modern Tanzania's grasslands. Vast stretches of yellow-green tall grass broken by occasional trees or rocky outcrops, with denser forests on the edges and rivers cutting through to provide essential water. Over time, members of the Homo genus became less suited to life in the trees, developing larger brains, fully upright walking and running, and diets better adapted to savanna resources. Nature was pushing them toward open plains, but they weren't alone. Homo habilis shared this environment with 4 other hominid species, 3 of which were also in the Homo genus: Homo ergaster, Homo erectus, and Homo rudolfensis. Ergaster and erectus, in particular, were later and more closely related to modern humans than the more primitive habilis. Another species they likely encountered was Paranthropus boisei, sometimes called Australopithecus boisei, stocky, hairy, and bipedal like the Australopithecines from which habilis evolved, and probably inhabiting the wetter, more wooded areas along the savanna's fringes. Groups of Paranthropus boisei may have crossed paths with large bands of Homo habilis near the edges of their territories. Whether they saw each other as distant relatives or simply kept their distance is something we'll never know. As for meat in their omnivorous diet, Homo habilis likely scavenged from the carcasses of antelopes, horses, and other medium-sized ungulates, animals similar to today's zebras and gazelles that have been killed by larger predators. They may also have eaten turtles, fish, rodents, or bird eggs whenever they could find them. Despite taking the first steps toward mastering the grasslands, Homo habilis was far from the top of the food chain. Stragglers, the young, or the injured had to be especially wary in Pleistocene Tanzania, where predators were everywhere. Leopards, much like those today, could stalk prey silently or climb trees to snatch an unguarded hominid. 2 now extinct big cats, Dinofelis and Meganterion, also prowled the plains, both deadly, saber-toothed predators. Meganterion, in particular, survived into the Middle Pleistocene and remained a serious threat to later human species like Homo erectus. And it wasn't only the cats that posed danger to Homo habilis. Homo habilis also had to watch out for another formidable predator of the time, the hunting hyena. Several species from the genus Chasmoporthetes roamed Africa's plains, running on long, slender legs like modern cheetahs and chasing down swift prey. Our early relatives would have been easy targets for their knife-like teeth. Even drinking water carried danger, as rivers and lakes were home to large crocodiles capable of ambushing in an instant. One Homo habilis fossil even shows evidence of such an attack. The front half of the foot torn away, an injury that would have been fatal on the Pleistocene plains. As for their extinction, the exact cause is uncertain, but it was likely the result of multiple factors over time. One theory, proposed by Dr. Pasquale Rea of the Università di Napoli Federico II in 2020, suggests that rapid climate shifts during the Pliocene and Pleistocene reduced the specific environments early humans depended on. As rainfall patterns, temperatures, and ecosystems changed quickly, habitats and food sources disappeared, and perhaps the same fate befell Homo habilis. Homo habilis may have vanished for many reasons: climate change, loss of habitat, or competition for more advanced relatives like Homo ergaster and Homo erectus, both smarter and better adapted to hunting and living in complex social groups. Whatever the cause, their disappearance in the early Pleistocene marked only the first chapter in a much larger human story that would unfold over more than 1 million years. Though primitive compared to their successors, Homo habilis laid the groundwork for future Homo species, earning their name, Handyman. They were the most intelligent creatures Earth had seen up to that point, capable of altering their environment in ways unseen in the fossil record before them. If they indeed built the simple stone shelter at Oldaway Gorge over 1 million years ago, it would reshape our understanding of their abilities, lifestyle, and thought processes. While we have far to go before reaching the emergence of Homo sapiens in this journey, we cannot underestimate the importance of Homo habilis as the pioneers of mechanics and technology. Without them, you might not even be watching this video today.